What kind of person gives away someone else's home like it's a yard sale trinket? I'll tell you. HOA Karen. The woman who ruled our lakefront community like a self-appointed queen. Her voice sharp enough to slice through steel. Her presence heavy enough to sink a boat. I'd owned my cabin on Lake Serenity for 15 years. A cedar-shingled refuge where my kids learned to fish and my wife and I found peace under the stars. It wasn't just a house site, it was our history. Our sanctuary. But Karen, with her manicured claws and HOA clipboard, decided it was hers to reassign. She handed it to her spoiled son, Ethan, like she was passing out candy, claiming my family had abandoned it. Abandoned. We'd been there every summer, every holiday, until life got complicated. I stood on the gravel drive, staring at my cabin, now with Ethan's skateboard propped against my porch, and felt my blood boil. How had it come to this? 2 years ago, my wife, Sarah, got sick. Cancer doesn't care about your plans or your property lines. We spent months in hospitals, draining our savings, missing summers at the lake. I'd informed the HOA we'd be away, paid every dime of dues, even hired a local to mow the lawn. But Karen, president of the Lake Serenity HOA, saw an opportunity. She'd always coveted our lot prime waterfront, unobstructed views. While we were fighting for Sarah's life, Karen was spinning a story. She told the board we'd abandoned the property, citing some obscure bylaw about consistent occupancy. Without a single phone call to me, she pushed through a vote to reassign our deed to her son, a 22-year-old with no job and a smirk that begged to be wiped off. By the time I got wind of it, Ethan was already living in my cabin, his dirty sneakers on my coffee table, his music blaring through my windows. I drove up to the lake the moment I found out, my hands shaking on the wheel. The cabin looked the same weathered porch, same creaky swing, but it felt violated. Ethan lounged outside, scrolling on his phone, while Karen stood guard like a hawk, her arms crossed, her eyes daring me to make a scene. "You weren't here, Mark," she said, her voice dripping with fake sympathy. "The community has needs. Ethan's starting his life. You can't just leave a prime lot empty." I wanted to scream that my wife was dying, that I'd paid every fee, that this was my home. Instead, I clenched my fists and said, "This isn't over, Karen." She laughed, a sound like breaking glass, and waved me off. I drove away, humiliated. But I wasn't done. Not by a long shot. I hired a lawyer the next day. Rachel, a sharp-witted attorney with a knack for digging up dirt, uncovered Karen's game faster than I'd expected. Turns out, Karen wasn't just HOA president, she owned Serenity Properties, a real estate company that had been quietly buying up lakefront lots. Our cabin. She'd marked it as a distressed asset in her company's portfolio, planning to flip it for profit once Ethan established residency. The HOA bylaw she'd used was a fabrication, a clause she'd slipped into the rules during a meeting no one attended. Rachel found emails between Karen and her lawyer, gloating about how easy it was to reclaim my property. Every word I read made my stomach churn, but it also lit a fire. Karen thought she'd outsmarted me, but she'd just handed me a loaded gun. The twist came when Rachel dug deeper into Serenity Properties. Karen's company wasn't just shoddy, it was a house of cards. She'd been dodging taxes, fudging permits, and strong-arming other homeowners into selling cheap. One neighbor, Mrs. Callahan, had been bullied into giving up her lot after Karen threatened to fine her for unapproved landscaping. Another, old Mr. Jenkins, Sold after Karen's inspections found fake violations. My cabin was just the latest in her scheme, but it was the one that would unravel her. Rachel filed a lawsuit, not just for my property, but for fraud, extortion, and breach of fiduciary duty. The courtroom became my new battlefield, and I was ready to fight. Karen didn't see it coming. She strutted into the courthouse in her designer heels, confident she'd charm her way out. But Rachel was relentless, presenting emails, forged documents, and tearful testimony from neighbors Karen had bullied. I watched Karen's face turn from smug to pale as the judge's gavel loomed. Ethan, sitting behind her, looked like a kid who'd just realized his mom wasn't invincible. The tension was thick, every whisper in the gallery a dagger to Karen's ego. I caught her eye once, and for the first time, I saw fear. Good. Let her feel what I'd felt when I saw my home stolen. The courtroom showdown was electric. Every moment a pulse of justice or dread. Karen's lawyer tried to paint her as a community hero, protecting property values. But Rachel dismantled their lies like a surgeon. She called Mrs. Callahan to the stand, her frail voice recounting how Karen's fines left her sleepless, afraid she'd lose her home. Mr. Jenkins followed, his hands trembling as he described selling his cabin for pennies under Karen's pressure. I testified last, my voice steady but raw, telling the judge how Karen stole my family's refuge while my wife fought for her life. The gallery was silent, the weight of truth crushing Karen's facade. She shifted in her seat, her lipstick-smeared smirk gone, replaced by a tight-lipped scowl. When Rachel presented the forged HOA bylaw, the judge's eyes narrowed. Karen's lawyer stammered, but it was too late. The gavel fell, and the ruling was clear: my cabin was mine again, and Karen's company faced a criminal investigation. The fallout was swift and brutal. The judge ordered a court fence around my cabin to keep Karen and Ethan out while the legal dust settled. I stood by that fence the day it went up, watching as Karen arrived, her face a mask of rage. Ethan trailed behind, his bravado gone, clutching a duffel bag of his stuff. A court officer handed Karen eviction papers, and she screamed, "This is my community." The officer didn't flinch, just pointed to the fence. My neighbor, Mr. Jenkins, watched from his porch, a quiet nod of approval on his face. Karen's empire was crumbling, and Serenity Properties was next. The state launched a probe into her company's dealings, freezing her assets. Word spread fast, her clients dropped her. Her investors bailed, and the HOA board voted her out. Karen, once untouchable, was now a pariah, her name synonymous with greed. But victory didn't feel as sweet as I'd hoped. Standing in my cabin again, I ran my fingers over the scratched dining table where Sarah used to sketch sunsets. She'd passed 6 months before the trial, never seeing our home reclaimed. I thought winning would heal the ache, but it only sharpened it. I sat on the porch swing, the lake glinting under the moon, and felt her absence like a knife. Then I remembered her words, "Don't let anger eat you, Mark. Build something better." She was right. Karen's downfall wasn't enough. I needed to rebuild, not just for me, but for everyone she'd hurt. I started a new HOA, one with transparent rules and no room for bullies. Mrs. Callahan joined the board, her shy smile a quiet triumph. Mr. Jenkins offered to host community barbecues, his way of reclaiming his place. We weren't just taking back our homes. We were taking back our community. The lake feels different now. The water still sparkles. The pines still whisper. But there's a new energy. Neighbors wave again, Their porches alive with laughter instead of fear. I walk the path to my cabin, past the fence that's no longer needed. And think of Sarah. She'd love this people standing up. Not just for themselves, but for each other. Karen's still around, living in a rented condo. Her company bankrupt. Her son off somewhere figuring out his own path. I don't hate her anymore. She's a lesson. A reminder that power built on lies always falls. I'm teaching my kids that, too, as they fish off the dock, their laughter echoing across the water. We're not just a community, we're a family, forged in the fight for what's right. And that's worth more than any cabin, any lake, any victory. End.